Hi and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Grab a seat because this one doesn't start the way you think it will. She fainted before I said a word. Right there on the kitchen floor. No yelling. No accusations. Just silence. And then her body dropped. Face first. Arms limp. Like a puppet with the strings cut. And it all started because I moved one thing on the table. One small, quiet, ordinary thing. Not a photo. Not a note. Not even a ring. It was a toothpick holder. I know how stupid that sounds. But that tiny ceramic toothpick holder, the one we bought at a farmer's market in Vermont 2 years ago, became the fuse that lit the dynamite under my marriage. Because it was blocking the corner of the receipt. And once I slid it to the side, she saw everything. Let me rewind a bit. Just a little. Not the whole life story. I'm not here to bore you. Just know this. My wife, Mallory, left the house at 9:02 a.m. that morning for what she described as a mental health reset spa day with her girlfriends. She kissed my cheek like she was clocking out of a job. I cleaned the bathroom while she was gone. And by total accident, and I mean total accident, I knocked over the laundry hamper. A folded towel fell out. A receipt fluttered to the floor. The universe has a cruel sense of humor. It was from the same spa she went to today. But this one was from last week. And she didn't go with her girlfriends. She went with Z.D. Same couples package. Same sauna. Same hot stone session. Except this receipt was itemized. 2 robes. 2 meals. And 1 note scribbled in the margin. Thanks for last night. Z. Yeah. Thanks for last night. Written in blue pen, like a wink slapped across my face. I didn't even know how to react. So I did what any overthinking, spineless husband would do. I set the table. I mean that literally. I set the table like I was hosting a dinner party for ghosts. 2 plates. Forks. Napkins. Wine glasses she never lets me use. I put the receipt under her plate, not on top. Because I wanted her to uncover it herself. To feel the lie peel back like a trapdoor beneath her. But the stupid toothpick holder was blocking the corner of the receipt. So when she came in, all radiant and fresh like a woman reborn, she didn't notice it at first. She laughed about how magical the eucalyptus steam room was. Said something about needing to go more often. I just nodded and said, "Sit. I made something for you." She sat, smiled, tucked her hair behind her ear, then picked up her fork, and saw the edge of the paper. I moved the toothpick holder. She looked down, and fainted. That was this morning. She's still upstairs right now. I haven't gone up. I don't know if I want to, but I know this isn't the end. Not even close. Because what I found after she passed out made the receipt look like a love letter. She came to within seconds, like someone waking from a strange dream. Her eyes fluttered open and darted around the room, then landed on me. Her face twisted in confusion first, then horror, like her brain had to catch up with what her body already knew. The spa bag had fallen on the floor when she collapsed, and her robe was halfway out of it, dragging across the hardwood like some symbolic white flag she didn't mean to raise. I didn't speak. Not at first. I just stood there at the edge of the kitchen, still holding the damn toothpick holder like it was a trophy or a murder weapon. I'm not sure which. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she whispered, her voice dry and uneven, like her throat had aged 50 years in 10 minutes. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My lips were trembling. My jaw was clenched so tight I could hear my teeth grind like gravel. She tried to stand, but I didn't help her. She steadied herself on the chair and then stared down at the receipt again, the corner now stained slightly by her sweat or tears or both. "It's not what it looks like," she said, the classic line, almost cliché. I let out a sound. Not a laugh, not a scoff, just something pathetic in between. Something that escaped me because I couldn't hold it in. "Who's Z?" I finally asked, though I already knew. I just wanted to hear her say it. She looked away. Down. Anywhere but at me. "It was just lunch," she said. "We bumped into each other. That's all." The receipt said, "Couple's signature relaxation package." The note said, "Thanks for last night." The lie said, "Lunch." My spine went cold. "Do I look like an idiot, Mallory?" I asked. And my voice cracked right in the middle like a bad radio signal. Because I feel like one. Her phone, her real one, buzzed from inside her bag. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed it and walked to the other side of the kitchen before she could stop me. She called after me, voice rising, begging me to give it back, saying she needed to explain. But I'd already typed the passcode. Same one since 2016. My birthday. She never changed it. She must have forgotten what she had opened last. Or maybe she didn't expect to faint. Either way, the screen lit up to a text thread, pinned to the top, with a contact saved only as a single letter, Z. His last message was still there, sent barely 10 minutes before she walked in the door. Wish I was in that steam room with you again. Your body is still all over my mind. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My heart wasn't racing. It was staggering, like it was trying to limp through every beat. She reached for it, eyes wide, cheeks flushed with shame or panic or both. Marshall, it's not what it... She started again. I cut her off. Do not insult my intelligence, I said, and for the first time in years, my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Not soft, not passive, not tired. It was sharp, bitter, clear. She stood frozen in the kitchen, framed by the glow of the overhead light and the chaos she created. I wanted to ask everything. How long? Where? Who is he really? Did anyone else know? Did she ever love me? Or was I just a routine? A safe bet while she chased steamroom strangers who left handwritten thank yous? But I didn't ask. Instead, I walked upstairs. And I did something I'm not proud of. I opened her laptop. I wish I could say I had a plan when I reached the top of the stairs. I didn't. I was just running. Not away from her exactly. More like from the version of myself that might scream or cry or collapse on the kitchen floor the way she just had. The laptop was on the dresser, plugged in and open. She always left it there. Said the screen gave her insomnia, so she didn't keep it near the bed. That little detail used to make me smile. I used to think it meant she was careful, intentional. Now I realize it was just another layer of how easily she controlled the image she wanted me to believe. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe emails. Maybe calendars. I didn't think I'd find anything at all. After all, who's stupid enough to leave evidence lying around? Apparently Mallory was. Or maybe she never thought I'd look. That's more likely, isn't it? She knew me. She knew I didn't snoop. That I trusted her like a fool. She knew I folded her laundry while she took hours-long solo walks, with her phone set to do not disturb. I opened the browser. Her email was logged in. I clicked through the inbox and saw a mix of junk, sales, random newsletters she never read. It looked clean. Too clean. No messages from Z, of course. No suspicious folders. But then I opened the downloads folder. And that's where I found it. A folder labeled taxes_2021. I clicked it because it was the only folder with a recent modification date. And because we filed jointly, and I knew for a fact we did our taxes on paper that year. Inside the folder weren't spreadsheets or documents. There were photos. Hundreds. Some screenshots. Some selfies. Some videos. The first file I clicked was a video. I should have stopped myself. I didn't. The video was from the same spa. I recognized the wallpaper from the brochure. Pale eucalyptus print, modern minimalist lighting. Those soft flickering candles meant to make you forget the outside world existed. Mallory was in a robe. But she wasn't alone. She was smiling at someone behind the camera. Someone who laughed in a low, confident voice and said, "Look at you, already glowing." She whispered, "You make me forget I'm married." Then the robe slipped, and I slammed the laptop shut. I didn't even breathe until I heard the click. My chest was a steel trap. My ribs had turned into iron bars. I stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. I don't know how many minutes passed. I just kept thinking about that line. "You make me forget I'm married." And the way she said it, like it was romantic, like it was a compliment. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. The mirror didn't show the same man anymore. Just a shell. My hair looked grayer. My eyes older. My mouth sagged like I was carrying invisible weights on both corners. Couldn't even cry. I just felt small, and humiliated, and stupid. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. Mallory was coming up. I could tell from the pace that she was still shaken. Not angry, not defensive, just rattled, maybe scared. And I thought, good, be scared, just this once. She knocked on the door gently. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't answer. She tried again. "Marshall, please, let's just talk." I opened the door slowly. She looked up at me with watery eyes and flushed cheeks. And for the first time, I didn't recognize her. Not her face, not her voice, not even the way she stood there like a stranger asking to come in. "You lied to me," I said flatly. "Not just about the spa, about everything." She blinked, mouth opening slightly, like she was searching for a script. But this wasn't a play, and I wasn't the patient husband anymore. "I saw the folder," I said. Her breath caught, just for a second. "But I saw it." "What folder?" she whispered. I shook my head. "The one with your glowing face all over it. You told him you forget you're married." "Well, guess what? I remember." She looked like she wanted to crumble again. But I didn't give her the chance. "You're sleeping in the guest room tonight," I said. "And tomorrow I want answers. Real ones. Or I'm gone." Then I closed the door. And behind it I finally let myself cry. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I lay on my side, facing the wall, listening for every creak in the hallway, every shift in the air. Mallory didn't knock again. She must have gone to the guest room like I told her to, though I didn't check. Couldn't. I didn't want to see her face. Not after what I saw on the laptop. Not after the sound of her voice giggling in someone else's presence, telling him how he made her feel 20 again. 20. I met her when she was 25. So who was she thinking about when she said that? At 3:15 a.m. I checked my phone. No new messages. Not from her. Not from anyone. I wasn't sure what I expected. Maybe I just wanted someone, anyone, to check in, to somehow know that my world had collapsed without warning. But the silence was louder than anything. I scrolled for the sake of distraction, but my mind kept circling the same question like a vulture over roadkill. What else is she hiding? And then came the follow-up thought I hated even more. Would I have ever known if she hadn't fainted? The morning came dull and slow, the kind of morning where the sun feels like a lie. I didn't bother shaving. I didn't eat. I sat at the kitchen table where the whole thing started. Same seat, same view, same toothpick holder still sitting off to the side. It looked smug now. At 8:12, I heard her soft footsteps descending the stairs. She walked into the kitchen in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked like she'd aged overnight. For a moment, I felt a pinch of pity. And then I remembered the spa videos, the voice messages, the robe slipping off her shoulders for a man who wasn't me. And the pity turned to bile. She sat across from me without asking. I didn't greet her. She folded her hands on the table like a child waiting for punishment. "I don't know where to start," she said quietly. "Try with the truth," I replied. My voice came out flatter than I meant it to. Too calm, almost clinical. She nodded, then looked away. "His name is Xander. We met at the gym." That detail slapped me hard. The gym I paid for. The gym I drove her to twice a week when her car was in the shop. The gym where I used to wait in the parking lot with her favorite iced tea. "How long?" I asked. She winced. "About 5 months. 5 months. Of text messages. Of stolen weekends. Of back-to-back spa visits disguised as girls' days." "Did anyone else know?" I asked. Mallory hesitated. "A little too long. My sister. But she thought it was over. I told her I ended it weeks ago." "Did you?" I snapped. She didn't answer. So I leaned in, eyes locked on hers, and asked the question I never thought I'd have to. "Did you ever plan on telling me? Ever? Or was I just supposed to keep washing your towels and filling your gas tank while you pranced around with some guy who signs receipts like a high school jock?" She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She just stared at me with this hollow expression and said something I'll never forget. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, Marshall. I just needed to feel alive again." Alive. Like I was a coma. I actually laughed. Just once, short and bitter. So all these years of me being loyal, being boring old Marshall who doesn't flirt or drink or disappear on weekends, that was the death sentence? Her eyes flinched. But she didn't deny it. And here's what broke me. She didn't apologize. Not once. Not a single "I'm sorry." I got up, went to the drawer and pulled out the spare key fob to her car. Set it on the table next to her phone. "What's this?" she asked. "You're going to his place," I said. "That's what you want, right? That's where you feel alive." She shook her head slowly. "No, I didn't come here to pack. I came to fix this." "No," I said, my voice finally cracking. "You came here because you fainted before you could finish your performance. If you hadn't passed out, you'd still be lying to my face, telling me that eucalyptus steam room changed your life." She whispered something I couldn't hear, so I asked her to repeat it. "I was going to end it," she said again, louder. "Today. That's why I went alone. I needed closure. I swear." I looked at her for a long time, and for the first time since this whole mess began, I realized I didn't believe her anymore. She stayed at the table long after I left. I didn't wait to see if she cried or if she packed or if she called her steam room lover for comfort. I just walked upstairs, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed like a man trying to convince himself that time travel was real, because I would have done anything to go back 6 months and stop all of this before it started. I wanted to delete every footstep I took that led me here. I wanted to unknow her. Instead, I grabbed my phone. I didn't want to look him up. I really didn't. But curiosity is cruel. You don't want to drink poison, but you do it anyway when it's poured into a glass and someone dares you to take a sip. I opened Facebook. I searched his name, Xander Duran. The first thing I noticed was his profile picture. It wasn't anything obscene, nothing dramatic. Just a grinning guy in a polo shirt, holding a wine glass at a rooftop bar. A guy you'd trust to water your plants. A guy you might actually like if you didn't know he was the one your wife turned into a stranger for. I scrolled down, not sure what I was even looking for, but something grabbed me instantly. There were photos, recent ones, public, and not of him alone. In 3 different pictures, there she was, Mallory, smiling like she was at peace, wearing the same blue robe from the video. One shot showed her and Xander arm in arm outside the spa. Another showed them at some brunch place, clinking glasses with a group of people. A third was just a blurry candid, but her laugh was unmistakable. I'd know that expression anywhere, except it wasn't meant for me anymore. But what twisted the knife deeper wasn't just seeing her with him. It was who else was there. In the background of one of the group photos, standing at the edge of the frame like a ghost, was Claire, Mallory's best friend. The one who always came over for wine nights, who helped us move, who cried at our wedding. Claire, who once told me I was the most stable man Mallory had ever dated. Claire, who toasted to our 6th anniversary with a speech about how we were relationship goals. She knew. She knew the entire time. I kept staring at the photo, zooming in on her face, waiting for any flicker of guilt, any signal that maybe she was uncomfortable. But no, she looked happy, relaxed, like this was all just a normal Saturday to her. No secrets, no shame, just brunch with the side piece and her best friend. Something shattered inside me. I didn't even know I was standing until I heard the laptop bag hit the wall. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely breathe. I went downstairs, found Mallory still at the table, unmoved, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass, and tossed my phone in front of her. "You want to explain this?" I asked. She looked down. Her expression didn't change. "Xander doesn't know how to lock down privacy settings," I added. Still no response. "So Claire's in on it?" I pushed. "Who else? Who else stood next to me while I held your hand and smiled like I wasn't the world's biggest idiot?" Mallory looked up at me, her lips pressed into a tight, trembling line. She didn't answer. I stepped back. "Tell me the truth," I said. "Right now. How many people knew?" "Marshall," she said softly. You're not going to want to hear this. I leaned forward. Say it anyway. She swallowed hard, her eyes finally meeting mine. At least 5. Felt like the air was sucked out of the room. Claire. Sam from work. My cousin Megan. Xander's roommate, obviously. And... She stopped. And who? I demanded. Her voice cracked. My mom. Everything in me went still. I felt it in my teeth. In my knees. In my ribs. A numb, humming silence. Your mother, I said. The woman who called me her son-in-law sweetheart? Who asked me to help her retile her bathroom. Mallory nodded. She said she didn't like it, okay? She told me I was being selfish. That you didn't deserve this. But she didn't stop me. No one did. I walked out of the house. I didn't take a coat. I didn't even change out of my slippers. I just walked. Around the block. Down the side streets. Through neighborhoods where no one knew my name. Where I could blend into the blur of morning joggers and leaf blowers. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. I ended up in front of my old high school. I hadn't been there in years. I sat on a bench by the empty soccer field and stared at the sky for what felt like hours. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I was trying to remember what it felt like to be 17. To believe in things. Because right now, I didn't believe in anyone. I didn't go back home that night. After sitting on that cold bench outside the high school for what felt like a lifetime, I walked to a cheap roadside motel about a mile away. The kind of place with flickering signs and stained carpets that whisper 1,000 other sad stories. I paid cash, didn't give my name, didn't ask for Wi-Fi. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the beige wallpaper, and tried to convince myself that I was still the same man who existed last week. But I wasn't. That man was gone. The new version of me was hollowed out. Not just by my wife's betrayal, but by the parade of people who clapped for our marriage with one hand and helped burn it down with the other. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. I kept thinking about Claire. How many nights she had sat across from me on our couch, sipping wine and watching movies while knowing every single lie Mallory was telling. I kept hearing the laughter from the spa photos. I kept seeing the look on Mallory's face when she said, "At least 5. That phrase echoed in my head like a curse. At least 5. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I needed to see Claire. Not Mallory. Not Xander. Claire. She was the one who held my hand at our wedding while I waited for Mallory to walk down the aisle. She was the one who read a cheesy poem at our rehearsal dinner. She was the one who said, and I remember this word for word, "You guys are disgustingly perfect, and I hope you never change." She had looked me in the eye when she said that. No hesitation. No guilt. I messaged her. Just one sentence. "I know everything. I need you to tell me why you helped her lie to me." She replied within 10 minutes. "Come over. I owe you that much." When I got to her apartment, she looked nervous. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just uncomfortable. Like she was dreading a dentist visit and I was the root canal. Her hair was messy, and she was wearing an oversized hoodie that looked like it hadn't been washed in days. For once, she didn't smile. That somehow hit harder than anything else. "I didn't help her lie," she said the moment I stepped inside. "Not in the way you think. I didn't sit. I didn't take off my coat. I just stood there and stared. You were in the photos." She nodded. "Yeah, I was. And I was sick to my stomach the entire time. But Marshall," she didn't give me a choice. That made me laugh, bitter and short. "You didn't have a choice to not brunch with your best friend and her affair partner? What, did she threaten to uninvite you?" Claire flinched. "No, it wasn't like that. She told me she needed support. She said she was ending things, that she just needed someone to be there while she did it. She swore it was over. That day at the spa was supposed to be goodbye." I didn't believe her. Not fully. But something in her voice, the hesitation, the break, felt real. Still, I pushed. "So why did you smile in the photos?" I asked. "Why did you pose like you were celebrating?" She looked down. "Because she lied to me too." That stopped me cold. "She told me you already knew," Claire said quietly. "She said you two were separated, just not officially." She said you were both seeing other people. I stared at her, eyes narrowing. And you believed her? I did, she admitted. At first. I mean, you never came to the spa weekends. You never posted anything about her anymore. She made it sound mutual, like you were living separate lives and just hadn't told the world. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip her coffee table. But I didn't. I just stood there, teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. You believed her because it was easier than asking me, I said. Because pretending it wasn't your business let you keep your hands clean. Claire wiped her face. You're right. I should have called you. I should have told you. I just didn't want to get in the middle of it. You were already in the middle of it, I snapped. You were in the photos. You were at the table. You toasted with the man sleeping with your best friend's husband. Her silence was the only confession I needed. As I turned to leave, Claire said one last thing that made my blood freeze. She's not just lying to you, Marshall, she said. She's lying to him too. I stopped at the door, slowly turned around. What do you mean? She told Xander you were emotionally abusive, that you'd been distant for years, that you guilt-tripped her out of leaving you, that the marriage was just cold. My chest hollowed out. And he believed her? I asked. Claire nodded. Why wouldn't he? She gave him exactly what he wanted. A story where he was the rescue. I left her apartment without another word. My ears were ringing. My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream, but I didn't even know where to aim the anger anymore. It wasn't just Mallory. It wasn't just Xander. It was the world she built around her lies. A house of cards where I was always the villain and she was the wounded flower begging for sunlight. But if she wanted to play the victim, I was ready to give her a reality check. Because if Xander believed her lies, then maybe it was time he heard my side of the story. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who writes a message to his wife's affair partner. You read about it. You see it in movies. You tell yourself, if it were me, I'd never lower myself to that level. But betrayal doesn't make you noble. It makes you curious, angry, desperate. It makes you want someone to see you, especially the person who helped erase you from your own life. So I typed it, deleted it, typed it again, deleted that one too. It took me over an hour before I landed on the version that felt calm enough not to look unhinged, but sharp enough to slice through the fantasy she'd fed him. And it was simple, honest, ugly. It read, Xander, I know who you are. I've seen the photos. I've heard her recordings. I've watched the videos. I know everything. I just thought you should hear it from me before I share it with everyone else, including your employer. You've been sleeping with a married woman. But the part you should really care about is this. She lied to you too. I hesitated. I stared at the screen. And then I hit send. I closed my laptop, walked to the window, and waited. I wasn't sure what for. A knock? A call? A confession from the sky? But none came. Then, an hour later, a ping. He replied. Just one word. Meet. Against every shred of logic, I agreed. We met at a park halfway between our neighborhoods. Neutral ground. Public. Open. He wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, like some cliché trying to hide in plain sight. I recognized him instantly. There was no mistaking the man from the spa photos. The man from the video clips I wish I could burn out of my brain. Marshall? He asked. I didn't answer. I just sat down on the bench and stared at the ducks drifting across the pond like they lived in a different reality. He sat beside me, keeping a cautious distance. I didn't know, he said. She told me you were separated. She said you lived like roommates, that you were cold. I let out a short breath through my nose. And you just took her word for it? I had no reason not to. She said you were emotionally manipulative, that you refused therapy, that she was trying to move on. I looked at him, really looked. He was younger than me by maybe 4 or 5 years. More athletic. The kind of guy who probably never had to try too hard to win people over. But he looked shaken now. Uncomfortable. Like the guilt was settling in just enough to crack the surface. Did you love her? I asked, not even sure why I needed to know. He didn't answer right away. I thought I could. I nodded. Well, You might want to ask her about the other guy. He blinked. What? There's another one. She was texting him last year. His name's in her cloud backup, probably before you even showed up. He rubbed his hands over his face. Are you serious? I wish I wasn't. For a long time, neither of us said anything. Just sat there, two men caught in the same storm from opposite directions. She used both of us, I finally said. You were the fantasy. I was the fallback. And now she gets to play the victim in both versions of the story. Xander looked at me, and I saw it, that moment when a man realizes he wasn't the exception. Just another detour in a pattern she never planned to break. Before I left, he said one more thing. I'll stay out of your life. You won't hear from me again. But you should know. She told me she was thinking of leaving you even before we met. She said she was waiting for the right moment. I stood up. Yeah, she told me the same thing. Right after I found the folder of videos on her laptop. His shoulders sank. And then I walked away. When I got home that night, Mallory was in the kitchen. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her mascara was smudged like ink on a napkin. She stood up as I walked in but didn't speak. Sit, I said, and she obeyed. I set my phone on the table, pressed play on the audio recording. Her eyes widened the moment she heard Xander's voice. He was calm, resigned, almost robotic. She lied to both of us, the recording said. I'm done being her excuse to run from herself. Mallory's face fell apart. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I didn't even blink. I just watched her fall apart in real time, the same way I did days ago, when the truth knocked me flat. You built a life out of half-truths and spa appointments, I said. Now you can sit in it alone. And I walked upstairs, not with rage, with clarity. The next morning, the house was silent. Mallory didn't knock on my door. She didn't cry. She didn't try to spin the truth again. I think she finally understood what it felt like to be done. And that's the word I kept repeating in my head. Done. Not broken. Not bitter. Just done. I poured myself a cup of coffee and watched the sun rise through the front window. Same view. Different man. Something had shifted inside me, not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but in a quiet, permanent sort of way. Like the door in my chest that used to swing open for her had finally rusted shut. When she came downstairs, I didn't flinch. She sat across from me, eyes puffy, holding her hands in her lap like a child waiting for punishment. But I wasn't angry anymore. That's the thing no one tells you. Once the grief burns through your body, what's left behind isn't fire. It's ash. And ash doesn't scream. It just settles. I'll move out today, she said quietly. I won't fight you on anything. The house, the accounts, you can have it all. I shook my head. I don't want revenge. I just want peace. She nodded, wiping away tears that didn't sway me anymore. I never meant for it to go this far. I looked her straight in the eyes and said the final thing I'll ever say to her as her husband. You never meant for me to find out. That's not the same thing. She left 2 hours later. No dramatic scene. No second act. Just a car door, a suitcase, and the soft sound of tires rolling away from the house we once built on top of lies I was too blind to see. A month passed. The papers were signed. The house was officially mine. I repainted the bedroom. I started therapy. I even joined a book club at the library, the kind with tea, awkward silences, and people who look you in the eyes when you talk. No one asked me to be perfect, just present. I'm not healed, not fully, but I'm healing, and sometimes that's more important. Last weekend, I walked past a mirror and saw myself smiling for no reason. It was small, crooked, and unfamiliar, but it was mine. Not something I put on for her. Not something I forced. Just mine. I don't think I'll ever understand why she did what she did. But I've stopped needing to. Some questions don't have satisfying answers. Some stories just end. And the real power comes in choosing how the next one begins. Thanks for being here with me. If you've ever been through something like this, betrayal, heartbreak, or that moment where the truth hits harder than a fist, I want to hear from you. Comment below and share a time when history blindsided you, or when you walked away stronger than you ever thought possible. And don't forget, this is Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds the light. We'll see you in the next story. Stay strong, stay honest, and remember, sometimes the best thing you can do is leave the table when love is no longer being served.